What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I bring to you yet another posing showcase. This time it's another story styled posing showcase featuring the Iron Man Mark V reissue versus Whiplash from Iron Man 2. Today I will attempt to recreate the iconic battle between these two whilst adding in my own artistic flair to tell the story and hopefully give you guys some ideas on how to display them in your collection. Whilst the Mark V suit only makes a short appearance in the MCU, to this day that epic moment is considered a highlight when rewatching the film. Now, including the intro and outro today, we have a total of 11 scenes, and just a reminder that in my showcases I use multiple figures and or accessories to help tell the story. In this video, I'm also continuing my new presentation style by showing you what they can look like on the shelf next to each other first, whilst I break down the poses, and then I put them on the turntable so you can see all the angles along with some music. Lastly, don't forget, if you like my content, hit that like button, notification bell, and subscribe to the channel. It helps me grow and continue to make this type of content, not to mention, I really appreciate all the support, guys. But now, with that, you know what we do. Scene number 1. We pick up just as Tony is in motion of suiting up as Whiplash struts towards him confidently. Coming out of nowhere, Whiplash surprised Tony on the racetrack, nearly taking him out before Happy and Pepper came to his rescue with the suitcase armor Mark V, enabling Tony to level the playing field. Taking a look at Whiplash's pose first, I wanted to convey him strutting confidently towards Tony, exuding that confidence he had in that moment. I think the key to any good walking pose is being able to articulate in any subtle movement patterns you can to make it fit the character and look natural. I do this here with Whiplash by tweaking basically everything. No straight lines. Moving on to Tony, here I'm just trying to recreate that moment from the film of him suiting up right before his helmet closes over his head. As this figure has heaps of moving parts, I articulated them to convey that moment and then posed him up emulating that scene. It wasn't until after I finished filming everything, I realized I did miss 2 flaps on the upper back, the gazelle that I am. But nonetheless, you get the idea. Scene number 2. Tony raises his arms up in his iconic repulsor pose stance, ready to blast this pest who's interrupted his holiday. Just as Ivan rears up, about to crack his whip and show Tony he means business and should not be taken lightly. Starting with Ivan, this is one of my favourite poses for this guy. We have him rearing up in motion, conveying the moment right before he cracks Tony. The really cool thing I love about this figure is being able to play around with his whips. I love that they are so poseable, and it's been so fun to explore this in this showcase, how you can use them to create action and volume to his presence. Moving on to Tony. This is a typical repulsor pose to do with him, so nothing crazy here. But pairing him up with Whiplash, I think it adds to the scene and also follows the steps of the battle between these two guys from the film. As you can see, for this one, I'm also using the base that comes with the Iron Man Mark 7, as it is basically the same road surface as Whiplash's base, and I thought it might be fun to have them both on the road surface. Scene number 3. We have Whiplash whipping Tony's left arm after deflecting his attacks, whilst cracking his other whip back, preparing to hit him with that too. For both of these poses, I chose not to use the bases this time, and the reason for that is, 1, they can both balance on their own like this, and 2, because both of their stances being so wide, they weren't able to plant both feet on their bases. I think this is a great display option if you have the space to have them this far apart and if you want to showcase them in battle. For Whiplash, I have him leaning forward with one whip wrapping around Tony's arm and the other articulated back, conveying motion to add life to the pose. Moving on to Tony, I've switched out his left arm for the battle damaged arm to tie in with the whip wrapping around it and destroying the suit. And as we move through the battle, I will continue to add other battle damage pieces to show the damage he takes throughout. You know, I actually wish they scuffed up this figure more to match the look of the film. But hey, beggars can't be choosers, he still looks awesome. Scene number 4. Whiplash taking control and bringing Tony to his knees, wrapping his electric tendrils all around him, including his neck now. Starting with Ivan, you can see I have him conveying the moment from the film where he has Tony down like this, except I've added my own flair with this pose. I have him in a stance of leaning back as if he's pulling on the whips and tugging at it, trying to pull Tony forward toward him. Then looking at Tony, I've gone from the classic ground pound type pose and worked it in to fit with the moment from the film. Taking a look from this angle, you see I have him using his right hand to grab the whip here to show he's about to get up and start fighting back. Now, to cap off this display, I wanted to address a topic of interest to me. I've heard people say you can't get an older figure like this Mark V into a tight ground pound pose because of the engineering. Well, I'm here to tell you that you can do it, and I think I got him looking real tight for this scene. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Scene number 5. Tony's up and he's shaken off the whip from his left arm and he's starting to grab at the one around his neck as he begins to work his way towards Ivan. Taking a look at Whiplash first, for him I'm trying to show that he's losing control as Iron Man begins to pull him off balance, so I have him leaning forward quite drastically to try and convey this. He actually articulates pretty well and holds his balance on this pose nicely. Then moving on to Iron Man, we have him gripping at the whip, about to start pulling himself towards Whiplash. For him, I'm utilizing his toe articulation to portray movement, and for his upper body, I use the scene from the film as inspiration to capture that moment when he first wraps it around his arm. It's a quick moment, but I love how it looked. Also with this scene, I've now added the rest of the battle damage pieces to show the damage he's just taken. Scene number 6. Tony continues to wrap the whips around him as he closes in on Whiplash, just like he did in the film. Another awesome moment in my opinion. For me, this scene could be the long-term option I leave them in my display after this video. I imagine when I have the suit-up version of the Mark V come in, I'll have that in the middle, on a riser, elevated, with these two at the front, intertwined in battle, either like this or something like this. I think that will look epic. Then, looking at it from the B side here, I still think it looks strong and shows the struggle between them. I quite like this angle and I think it could be good displayed up high so you're looking at it from below. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Scene number 7. Tony gets in close and finally lays a hit on Whiplash, giving him a massive uppercut, launching him into the air. The tables are turning. Starting with Tony, I'm articulating pretty much every part of him to try and convey the action of him hitting and lifting up Whiplash. He looks like he's balancing on his own, but I'm actually using the connection between his fist and Whiplash to help hold him in place. It's ever so subtle, but trust me, it's helping keep him still. Then moving on to Whiplash, his pose is a little more difficult to achieve than you may think. Trying to get him to look natural for me was tough on this one. For an angle like this, with my photography I will edit out the flight pole holding him up to make it look more realistic, but in the video you're gonna see it. If you're on Instagram, be sure to check out my page. I quite enjoy taking photos and trying to create art with my collection. My handle is Iron Logan, just like the channel. Scene number 8. Iron Man taking full control now, flipping Whiplash over just like he did in the film. This scene was a tough one to get to balance, but with some patience we got there in the end, and I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Starting with Iron Man, I've tried to pose him in a way to sell the fact that he's in motion of flipping Whiplash over. From this angle here as well, I'm actually hiding the stand that's holding him in place with his left leg. Moving on to this angle here, you can see both stands a little more clearly holding both these guys up. For Whiplash, I'm using the rock base and clear rod and crotch holder, which I have his waist balancing on, and then I have his right leg resting on Tony's shoulder to keep him in place. This is not a pose I would leave them in on the shelf, but for the purpose of the showcase and to also take some photos, I wanted to recreate the moment when Tony flipped him over before going on to end the fight. Scene number 9. Whiplash is down and Tony reaches down to rip off his arc reactor and put an end to the fight once and for all. For this scene, we have Whiplash down on the rock base, lying in the rubble, defeated, which is a simple pose to achieve, but for the purpose of the story, it's also a logical pose to put him in for the end. The reason I'm using the base is to prop him up a bit to make it possible for me to have Iron Man bending down to rip off his arc reactor. If he was flat on the ground, I wouldn't be able to pull this type of pose off with Tony. Okay guys, the outro. To close this out, we have Tony standing there victorious, holding on to Whiplash's arc reactor, with Ivan still down and defeated in the background. And that's it guys and girls. I hope you've enjoyed this showcase today. Both these two figures are great additions to any Iron Man collection, and I can't wait to pose them up and put them in my Iron Man display. This fight will always be an iconic moment for me from Iron Man 2, and I had a ton of fun putting this showcase together for you, and I hope you now have some posing and display ideas for these guys if you have them in your collection. I thank you all for tuning in, and if you hadn't already done so, do us a favor and hit that like button, notification bell, and subscribe to the channel. We now have a channel membership up and running with perks like no other, so check that out too and see if it's for you. As a thank you to whoever hops on board, I will do my best to give you all the value I can for your support. Lastly, we got reviews and unboxings, story-styled posing showcases like this one, live streams including my shows Posed Up where I interview fellow collectors and content creators whilst posing up figures, plus the rundown that I co-host with my guy, the Figure Posing channel, where we deep dive into film and TV. But for now, until next time, live life, have fun, and keep posing. I'm out.